Hello, Amiasayo and Salam. My name is Pastor Eddie Anderson. I am a local pastor in the West Adams area and a community organizer. And I'm running because as I served as a redistricting commissioner and listened to the needs of Koreatown, I knew that we had some issues. We had some issues around how do you make sure that public safety is accessible and available for everyone. How do you make sure that everyone has a job, because 70% of our district are renters and 55% of us think that the rent is a little too high? How do you make sure that we are encouraging education? And during that time, after our current person in office was indicted, we went and had a meeting with the city council. We asked city council, will you come and listen to community? And I knew that the community wanted to have their voices heard. And the city council told us no. And I believe that's not democracy. And so I'm running for democracy, I'm running for education, I'm running for public safety, I'm running to make sure we have a robust coalition to make sure that everyone's voice is heard, and that when we work together and when we fight together, we can have a better CD10 that we all would be proud of, and our seniors and our young people will see themselves living in a prosperous CD10.
Hi, I'm a Reginald Jones Sawyer. I would get up, but I went to Mass this morning, so I've been going up and down. Look, my uncle was one of the Little Rock Nine, one of the 9 people that integrated at Central High School in 1957. And so I was always raised that you have to give back. I worked for the city for 25 years. I know how to get things done in the city. I worked in the California legislature for the last 10 years, so I know how to legislate things and get the governor to sign over 100 bills of mine. The reason I want to still continue, because I'm in my last year, is because the city's broken. You all know that. You heard the tapes. You all know the problems. You have people attacking the city council right now because it's so disjointed and problematic. And we need to bring it back to the way it used to be. We need to make sure that you feel like you're being heard, whether it's homelessness, whether it's affordable housing, whether it's public safety. I think the reason why people are so disgusted and so angry because they don't feel like they're being heard. And Koreatown, from what I've been hearing, as I go through, make my calls and talk to people, Koreatown feels even more disenfranchised. And so we need to bring back the way it used to be, where elected officials would actually talk to people, like this forum. So I thank you all for being out here today, because this is what democracy is really about. You get to know us, meet us, see us, because that's what I hear all the time. You want to see us and hear from us. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Aura Vasquez, and I'm here before you as an environmental justice advocate, a former youngest commissioner for LADWP, and also a commissioner for the workforce development, and also a representative for formerly here for Koreatown and also for the Pico neighborhood. I'm running for city council because, like many of you, I'm fed up. I'm fed up with the trash on our streets. I'm fed up with the bulky items. I'm fed up with having to move from place to place because as a renter, the rent keeps just going high. You know, I'm also fed up to drive my Vespa scooter around and see that there's so many potholes and just like dilapidation in our community. Like many of you, I'm also an immigrant. I'm an Afro-Latina from Colombia and a former undocumented student. And despite that, I was the first one to graduate from college, and my parents never graduated from high school. They instill in me the passion and the duty to give back for my community. So here I am. I'm fighting for you, for the people that take the bus every day to work, for the domestic workers that sometimes get cheated on by their bosses, for the renters that sometimes don't have a place to go or don't have anybody to complain to. Especially as a former resident here of Koreatown, I firsthand know how important all of these issues are, and I'm here as a partner, I'm here as someone that brings innovation, and I'm here to bring unity and solidarity with all of you. Thank you so much.
Thank you to AAPI, Equity Alliance, CAUSE, KAC, KYCC, and SAN for holding this forum tonight, or afternoon, I should say. I'm Grace Yoo. I'm a community advocate, attorney, and former city commissioner. I'm running for this seat because this is home. My parents immigrated and we lived in this district since 1974. I was a 3-year-old bubbly little kid, and it's so exciting to be able to come back and run for this seat. It means so much. I'm running for LA City Council because we need honest leadership back at City Hall. Someone you can trust to do the right thing, someone who's got your back, someone who understands the needs of the community. And as someone who was an English learner, when I went to kindergarten, I cried because I didn't speak English, right? I get it. There are special needs when you don't have language need or the grasp of the English language, right? LEP, English learners, we need people who will be in office who care about these issues. I know that the city has the resources. The city has more than $13 billion. We need the right person in charge, and I happen to be that person. I would love your support.
Thank you for that question. I am the assembly member of Skid Row, and I just recently had that redistricted into my community. And what I found is we have enough money, enough resources, enough programs to actually tackle that and also tackle the problems in your community to be able to address it. The problem is a lack of coordination. We have all these different silos. The county does one thing, the city does another. But most important, we have no one in charge. If I ask everyone in this room who's in charge of homelessness, you may say it's the city, you may say it's the county, you may say it's LASA, you may say it's the feds, you may say it's the state. There is no one accountable for making sure that it gets done, that addresses your issue and the issue that you brought up. My AB 89 was a bill to create a homeless czar, to actually put someone in charge. The bureaucracy and the legislature didn't want to do it because, again, they don't want to have someone in charge. They have accountability measures so we can focus like a laser on the problem that you're talking about, providing people with the proper linguistic and to know what you need, because your needs may be different from the needs that are on Skid Row right now, and we need to address it and focus like a laser. And so if that bill had passed, we'd be in much better shape, and I plan to make sure that we're able to do that. I'm going to bring that bill back again because it died in appropriations, because I think at the end of the day, if just like we had with COVID, we had one person in charge, and look where we are. We're all not wearing a mask anymore.
So the reality is that this community, this data that you share has really shown a vulnerability specifically for this community. So I have a three-way approach to address this, especially as it comes to all of you. First, cultural competence, language justice, and outreach. I believe that the fact that a lot of you don't know where these services are, or how to advocate for more services, or how to go out there and say we need more homelessness outreach, has a lot to do because in a lot of ways we don't speak the language, and as a second language person, I can relate to that. And also, the city doesn't nearly does enough outreach. If you believe that the city does enough outreach on homelessness, raise your hand. Well, I figure that. So, the other part that I believe that is important is that we need to prevent homelessness. And as a renter, that's like really dear to me. We need to protect more renters. We need to make sure that affordable housing is built. We need to make sure that also we protect the stock of rent control units. I live on one of them, so I know. And we need to also build more socialized housing. And City Hall doesn't have enough outreach strategies to identify how to best protect this community and how to best address this community. So I'm very committed to implementing those policies that acknowledge the specific challenges of this community. Thank you so much.
The fact is the numbers, 103% increase, 174 increase in the Pacific Islander community is huge. The reality is we're not going to be able to do every single language when we've got more than a dozen Asian languages. So how are we really going to provide these services? And you know what? I say it's the nonprofits. It's the volunteers who always go out and make things happen. But we need to teach them how to run the system. Just like employees of LASHA and other nonprofits that are out there trying to go about helping folks who are on the street who want to be housed, I think we should be able to do that with our nonprofits as well. initially, it may be that there's only one person in one language, but a larger language, say Korean or Tagalog, if they don't speak English, although most Filipinos do speak English. So let's say the Mongolian community, right? We need to have services in those languages. If all of a sudden the Bangla community has grown, then we're going to have to hire someone who can speak it. But until that is a reality, I would use our nonprofit volunteers and nonprofit employees to get the message out, to teach you how to service folks who are in need. If we have more people who know how to get through the system, we can do better for the community.
In 2017, I was pastoring a church, was going to Claremont School of Theology, and was living on Manhattan Place in K-Town when I found myself homeless for 3 months, couch surfing from place to place. And then I got the opportunity to serve on the LASA's Black People Experiencing Homelessness Committee. From there, I went and served on the county level on the Anti-Racism, Diversity, and Inclusion Committee, and we look at these numbers in the Homelessness Task Force Commission for the county and the city. So yes, coordination is a big issue, that the county and the city keep trading who does the work. Yes, we need to make sure that nonprofits are the ones who are the trusted messengers to move people in the community into homes in our community, especially in K-Town. But we also need to make sure we have conflict resolution models. There's too many buildings in K-Town that have space for people to live in that we are underutilizing and are not using. So we need to bring the business community, the faith community, and nonprofit community together along with elected officials to have true coordination to address the frontline issues. As a pastor, I know all too well how churches and faith communities and nonprofits stay on the front line and understand what people are going to on a day-to-day basis. We can do this together. We can make sure that language access is not a like to have, but a must have in order to contract with the city and with LASA as well. We can do this together, and I believe that's are some of the ways in how we address homelessness in our city.
I feel blessed that I'm having this question because as a renter and as a family that came here in the 90s, we wanted to come to this country because one day we thought we were going to buy a home, and for a lot of our families is that upper mobility is so crucial. So we have some programs, but these programs are small, like the LIPA or like the MCC program, which provides help for low-income people to get that down payment that we need. Because for a lot of us, saving those little dollars to get the down payment is really hard. So what I propose is to find more funding, to work with the state, with the federal level, also to bring more money so that specifically we can have more funding for these specific programs and get to that upper mobility. Specifically for this community, we must advocate together to desegregate data so that we can apply and we can create the right policies that that can really affect you and help you directly. I also support collaboration with nonprofits and all of these organizations that are here present, because you guys have a very strong hold in the community and you can educate people, you can provide that language justice, you can provide that education so that people can get these resources. And of course, a small home ownership is really important. I have been a small business owner, and my parents too, so this part is really important too. Thank you.
Having disaggregate information is vital for any and every government type of program. And the biggest problem is that people don't know about this first-time home buyer assistance. I mean, who here actually had heard about first-time home buyer assistance? About a third. That's great. But you guys are activists, and only a third of you knew. Do you know how many people don't have these services? What I would do is I'd go to the ethnic media to get it out there so more people would understand. Then if they realize, oh, I can get assistance, and you know what low income is? If you make less than $70,000, that's not low income in my book. And if you're a family of two, we're talking $80,000. So guys, those of you sitting here, you might actually qualify for the city's program. It's important that we do this. And honestly, the ethnic media has always been the best help for people who have limited English access, right? Whether you're Bangla, whether you're Vietnamese, you're Hmong, Mongolian, it doesn't matter. Your ethnic newspaper media is sort of a lifeline in America. It's not just the religious institutions. I know that generational wealth comes down through housing. So we need to build affordable housing, right? We can't have only expensive things being built. We need to build small homes, townhomes that people can purchase, and that's how you'll help with the generational wealth.
When it comes to housing, there's a couple of issues that we need to look at, especially when we talk about the API community. The first, we have to be honest, is that LA is a racial segregated city. And so I would use the Civil and Human Rights Department in the city to make sure that we are actually leasing and making sure that the city is actually enforcing their own rules around who gets to buy houses. Make sure that housing covenants are not upheld in our city. Secondly, I will uplift family resource centers to make sure that people who are on the front line, people who are dealing with poverty, that we are fighting poverty and not the poor. So that we're using family resource centers to make sure people actually get information around what's possible and how we can move that forward. I will uplift nonprofits like, I see Hype in here, so FACE, I know, does a wonderful job helping Korean Americans in the Korean community get housing. And so how do we uplift programs like that to make sure that the models are in the churches and in the nonprofit organizations where people can actually hear what's going on for them? But last but not least, we got to look at public-private partnerships, right? When we saw that there was a big issue in the housing market, at LA Voice, we organized and got the law changed. We passed SB 4. That means that faith institutions and nonprofit institutions can now build housing by right on their land. What does that mean? More senior housing for our seniors. What does that mean when we pass ULA, United House LA? It means that we can now have money in ULA funding to build social housing so people can own their apartment buildings. It means that we can look at programs like the space program in Boston and bring that to Los Angeles to make sure that everyone has a pathway to housing. As a renter, is very important to me.
For the past 2 years, I've been on the affirmative act, on the task force to look at reparations for African Americans. And in there, we looked at generational wealth and what the gap is. The primary gap is home ownership. That's the reason why our communities are lagging way, way, way behind. And it's because there are a lot of barriers to us being able to own property, whether it's redlining, even getting an appraisal. Some appraisals are much better for people who don't look like the people in this room than they are for people outside this room. The fact that you go to a bank and they're not lending you the money, you can be able to go ahead and buy a home. All those factors have been impediments to us being able to do the first line of generational wealth, which is owning a house. Second line of generational wealth that we learned is owning a business. And we also have a problem with access to capital for that. And then the last one was the higher end, is being able to own stocks and have your money work for yourself. So we need to be able to not only invest in owning property, we need to make that the first line of attacking that. We did a 1,200-page report on that, and we're going to have solutions for that for African Americans. But I will tell you, that will be a blueprint for LGBTQ, for Native Americans, for women, and for API people to use to get their own reparations and remove all those barriers that keep you from generational wealth.
You know, I've had the pleasure of working with BUFLA, the Bangladeshi United Federation of Los Angeles, and I'm new to SAN, but clearly I'm familiar with SABA. I've learned a lot of things from the Black community. The National Bar Association is where I learned how to do things when I was executive director of the National Asian Pacific American Bar Association. I believe there's much to be learned from other organizations who are already providing these types of services to help limited English speakers. So let's not reinvent the wheel. You can go to the different organizations that are already doing this and have been doing it for decades. I can tell you that as a council member, I would provide services, we'd provide the space and the information that is needed so that more community members, more non-profits, and more businesses would understand what is available. Understanding what kind of government resources are available is critical for a limited English or non-American born, the families who don't understand the American system. I would be someone who is really keen on providing services for those who don't really understand how the service works. And that's what I did as my prior time as a nonprofit executive director for 15 years.
I too, during Ramadan, I got the opportunity to sit with my friends at Bufala and break fast together. And after we broke fast together, I asked, "What's going on? What can we do to move things forward?" They said, "Pastor, we want to be like the NAACP. We want to figure out how do we do economic advancement." I think I'm one of the only folks who is running for office that has created a community development corporation through my church, and through that corporation, we've invested $8 million into the community, into CD10. What is that money going towards? It's going towards workforce development. It's going towards making sure that young people could actually get therapy and culturally competent therapy. It's going towards urban farming and building a grocery store in South Los Angeles. These things that I've learned, I want to extend over to the API community as well, especially the Bangladeshi community, where they said, the rent's too high. And we've done everything right, but we can't afford to keep our business. We can't afford to send our kids to school, that our kids come back and they can't afford to live here. And so we got to create those public-private partnerships in our community to move it forward. I've been doing that already in the community. I've partnered with KYCC to help them get their word out in the black community and around the West Adams neighborhood as well. And I'll continue to do that work even as we build deeper coalition as we move forward as a council member for CD10.
So for the last 10 years in the Assembly, I've been working really hard to help the immigrant community not only be able to rent, to get checking accounts, just to be able to thrive in this community. And it's been really difficult because we put barriers to keep them from being able to do that. One of those was being able to have identification and licensing. And then the last bill that went out to allow immigrants to be able to have that was my bill. And that was because the API community came to me and told me that they needed that so that they would be able to become part of the community like anyone else. And it showed me then, as we started to have more and more conversations about not only the API community, but also about how people are being left out who are thriving members of the community, who have small businesses, who are doing exceptional work to help this economy, but we shun them. And we don't allow them to become part of the community as a whole. And so we need to be able to, one, find out what is keeping them behind. Because one of the things that we found out when we did our research is, I may think it's poverty, but it may just be prejudice toward a certain community. I may think it's access to capital, but it may be something else. We need to actually have a real, true conversation, not only with the API community, but the South Asian community, Bangladesh community, and actually have a real conversation of what your needs are so we can resolve it.
So this question about economic advancement is super important. We've been talking about housing, upper mobility, and I currently serve in the Workforce Development Commission. So for me, it's been very important to bring already all of your voices to this work and work with small businesses, with the private sector, having public-private partnerships so that you also can be benefited from this job creation. Now, our youth is our future. We have to do everything in our power to make sure that they have all the tools that they need to succeed. And that includes, of course, work readiness, maybe language barriers. A lot of people I came to this country at age 18 and I didn't know how to speak English. So I know that a lot of young people is still kind of getting, acquainted to this country too, technical training. Also my approach really involves local businesses, educational institutions, working with all of you to better understand your needs and where your economy wants to go. A lot of you are entrepreneurs, small business owners. So how do we make sure that you also have the support that you need so that you can succeed in the current global, and tech economy? So in terms of young folks, I want to reiterate that I am so excited to working with all of you and to see you thrive and to continue bringing practices and programs so that you can succeed. Thank you.
So for me, I believe that people closest to the pain have the solutions. And so when I decided to run for city council, I did a listening tour. And I'll just list some of the folks that I've listened to make sure that I knew what was going on. I sat down with my friends like Rev Ray and John O and TC Kim, who I see here today. I sat down with Do Kim and Diane Ugia. I sat down with Mona Lisa Solufale, who's Tongan and Samoan. I sat down with my professor, Professor Najiba Saeed, and I sat down with Trinity Tran, who was doing the Public Bank LA. And I asked them a simple question. What's going on in the neighborhood? What's going on in your community? How can we be more helpful? In my administration, I will not only appoint and hire folks from the API community, but I believe we need a deputy of people. That we need to do real community organizing in the community to make sure that everyone has an equitable distribution of resources in my administration. So I will hire a deputy of people. I'll make sure that, and I'll fight for that the charter and the city services are provided in Korean. It will be provided in Bangladeshi, Tagalog. It will also be make sure that if there is a more than a 5% speaking requirement for every meeting that we have, that we are translating those meetings as well if I'm going to be a part of those meetings. We have the possibility of doing that. We can do it. We just have to have the fight to make it happen. And I want to fight to make sure that happens, and I will hire the staff to make sure that happens as well.
As you probably guessed, I am an 87% Latino district, and you probably can surmise I'm not Latino. So I've learned it's very, very important that you hire people that are representative of your community. My legislative director is Latina. My communications director is Latino. I have Latino members in my field staff because I know it's critical that the people you represent see people that look like them in your office, not only at the lower level, but at a senior policy level to be able to deal with the different problems that are arising within the community. That's always been the example of what I think every elected official should do and make sure that they are representing their communities to the fullest. But most important, the people you hire, they understand the community. Because a lot of times you just don't want somebody that looks like someone. You want somebody that actually is from the community, that knows what the community wants. And a lot of times we just hire people just because it looks good. We shouldn't do that. We should hire people that will do the work that needs to be done to bring the resources to the people in that community that you represent. And I think that is the most important thing that any elected official can do. Thank you.
I think having language access is key. But how many of you in the pandemic went to a city council meeting on Zoom and had the option to get it translated? Okay, I see a gentleman over there very shy saying yes. So we definitely need to do better than that, guys. I think translation services need to happen in every in every meeting, in any official meeting and an official meeting. I am committed to, of course, have real representation. I have lived here in Koreatown. When I first moved to LA, I first moved here, to Koreatown was home. And I am so proud to say that I want to introduce you guys to Gianmarco Posung, who is a member of my staff, and he's, Chinese. And Chinese and Peruvian, like a lot of, Asian of descent went to Latin America. So we are already doing that. So I hope that when I get elected, you all come with your names of people from this community that can be part of my staff and be part of my team and be part of my advisory. Because it's gonna take all of us to work together to really address and assess what are the needs for this community. And it's not just a translation, guys. We need to get culturally relevant. You need to better, get to the hearts and the minds of this community. So I'm committed to that. Thank you so much.
as someone who is from the community and has been a translator since second grade, right? When I got called by the principal, it wasn't because I did something bad, but because they wanted me to translate for a new Korean family. I get it. And so definitely I will have Spanish and Korean speaking bilingual staff without a doubt. And then, you know, if we end up having an influx of Ukrainians and we need to have that language available, I will do that. I will look at what is needed in the community, but I can promise you that my staff and I will be responsive. And what we would do is make our hours different than the rest of City Hall. I plan to have hours on the weekends, weeknights, so that the hardworking people of CD10 can come and interact with government employees and understand what government can provide. And so I think you'll appreciate that. And we'll have it all throughout CD10. It'll be, you know, in Jefferson Park, it'll be in Lamert Park, it'll be in South Robertson, it'll be where it's needed. Not just in Koreatown, I'll have it everywhere it is needed. Thank you so much.
Last night I was in Koreatown. I was trying to get through Western and about Wilshire, and it was a little difficult getting through the traffic. And when I asked the people I was meeting with in Koreatown, you know, what's going on with the traffic here? I said, when was the last time community plans were done? And I got all these question marks. As a former planner for Dick Reardon back in the day, I know how important the community plans. And if you haven't had one done since I did them back in 1994, then there's a definite problem going on here. The community plans, if you don't know, is how you decide what you want the future of your community to look like and where you want it to go. Not what I want you to believe it should be, but what you believe it should be. And I think we need to go back to our community plans, have those charrettes, those communities, town halls, and actually talk to the people in the community so we can determine in the next 5, 10, maybe even 20 years what you want Koreatown to look like. I have my own ideas. I think it could be a destination place. It could be a thriving, energetic place, almost like you see at LA Live, where people come as a destination place to eat, to entertainment, to have a good time. But we need to do it in a way where we don't have the kind of overcrowding that I saw last night in Koreatown, and that we don't overburden the established community there, or we don't move them out. And so that's what I think we need to do.
All right, so K-Town, and as a former resident, you know, who understands the unique challenges of this community, I can tell you that I have, you know, plenty of things in my own, you know, wish list. So for my candidacy and as a councilwoman, I'm planning to take things back to the basics, because we all know we all have been around in Koreatown and have seen the trash in our streets. We need better trash pickup that is also equitable. You know, where I live right now in Mid-City, it's a lot of single-family homes. We have ones that we pick up, and that's okay. But Koreatown is a lot more dense. So why is it that trash pickup doesn't happen here more often? So we need to talk about that, and we need to address that. We also need to make sure that we have more lighting. You know, there's a lot of people that tell me, I'm feared to walk my dog at night because it's so dark. So, you know, back to the basics. What about parks? We deserve parks, and this is an epidemic everywhere, not just in Koreatown, like in all, you know, Los Angeles too. So I, as an environmental justice advocate, I'm craving more trees in more places, more open space, culture, you know, arts. That's what I see Koreatown being, and that's what I see District 10, you know, being. We have been plagued with lack of leadership, and I'm here to invite you to lead with me, so that we can have the community that we deserve and that we want. So, you know, of course, I'm counting on all of you to have community forums. I'm an organizer, so I love all these things. So let's get together and let's discuss how we can gonna increase our public transportation and a lot more. Thank you so much.
You know, the most important things are 1, public safety, 2, affordable housing, and 3, good government services. It's simple. We must have a safe environment, and we don't have it right now. I would continue the city's policy of the circle and SMART teams. The difference between, these are both where instead of the police responding, it's to have social workers, clinicians, people who can understand how to deal with people with mental issues come out. The difference between the circle and the SMART, which is system-wide mental, mental assessment response team. So the circle is when it's non-emergency, and SMART is when the person is having a mental breakdown. If we had those responding instead of LAPD, that could help with what's been happening with our police department, make the community safer. If we had good city services, then it would be cleaner and safer as well. And honestly, the most important is affordable housing. I went to Compton, where they just built, or are in the process of building, 100% affordable and low income. I'm like, wow, I would like to see that in District 10, and I would definitely make that my top priority in office.
When I think about K-Town, I've been listening, and 3 issues come to mind. The first is around public safety. Public safety is not just where the police can respond, but it's also making sure that the streets are clean when people are trying to walk through the streets. So we're really addressing the homelessness issue in our community, that people have real public safety, real health incomes, and that we are improving parking in K-Town. I don't know about you, but it's very hard to find parking, and we can do something about planning and to make sure that we can get more parking in K-Town. Then there's the economy that I've heard a lot about, around how do you make sure that Koreatown is not a monolith. So the Filipino workers who are in K-Town are worried about what's about the wage theft in our community, and the business owners are worried about how can we make sure we can still pay the rent. The city council can convene those tables and make sure that that is happening for you. But last but not least, we can do education. We can sit down together and make sure we make placemaking around. Why isn't there a Welcome to Koreatown mural and making sure Koreatown is a destination location in K-Town? We can do it. We've done it all over the city, but we can do it in K-Town as well. Let's show the true diversity of K-Town and make sure that everyone's voices are heard, and that we are having those conversations, not just at election time, but that we are having those conversations ongoing. I believe in co-governance and democracy. If we're going to have equitable resources, then we got to have the meetings, not just when things are going crazy, but when things are going well as well. And so every other month or once a quarter, I want to sit with you and hear what's going on and how are we doing.
Well, thank you so much for allowing me the time to share a little bit about who I am with all of you. I'm committed to stay here. I'm not going anywhere, whether I get elected or whether I become the president of the world. I'm here to stay, and I'm here to be a good community partner. Why should you, support my candidacy? I have over 2 decades of community organizing. I started organizing environmental issues since at age 11, back home in Colombia. I became the youngest commissioner for LADWP and established office hours, and the only commissioner that has ever done have an open door policy, to open my home and my heart to all of you, to hear your concerns. I'm a fearless advocate, and I am the fighter that you need. In our district right now, we need more affordable housing. We need more better services. We need trash pickup. We need better parking options. We need transit. We have so much work to do. And for the past few years, we have been distracted by the lack of leadership, by the corruption. And it's time for us to choose somebody new. I will become the first Afro-Latina to be elected in this district. And I hope that all of you join me, because we have a very thriving group of volunteers that come out with us all the time to talk to neighbors. So please check me out at auraforthepeople.com, or come at the end of the afternoon, and I would love to share with you my information. Thank you so much, and I hope that I can earn your support.
You ask why I'm running. I'm running because I love my city, and I really love CD10. This is what it looks like, because the city redistricted it this way. Redistricting is important, but the city's fairness or lack thereof is more important. We didn't get a special election. CD6 with Nuri Martinez, they got a special election. We deserved a special election. We, the residents of CD10 and especially Koreatown, need to be treated fairly. Why are we disrespected? Why are we not given the same rights as everybody else? I'm tired of not being treated equally, fairly. You know what? They said, hey, Grace Yoo, you know you're going to run for CD10 again, so we can't put you into that position, even though you came in second to Mark Ridley Thomas, right? Why? And then they appoint a woman, and I said, well, if you're appointing her, then she's going to have an advantage, so she should be not allowed to run. They didn't do that. The city wants people who will do what they want. I'm the fighter. I'm the status quo fighter, right? I will fight for you for just fair representation. I'm running because I believe in democracy. I was a poli-sci major. I'm an attorney, and I know we are not being treated fairly, and I will represent this community and all of CD10 fairly. Thank you so much. Grace4LA.com.
Thank each and every one of you for your time today. I'm running because I believe that when we work together, we can solve hard problems. And for over a decade, I've been fighting with you, to make sure that those hard problems are solved. We know that the city tried to shut us out. And I believe we deserve better than the status quo. I think you think that as well. I believe that we should be able to have affordable housing, that one job should be enough. I believe that housing should be a human right in this community. I believe that our seniors should be taken care of, and that our young people should be able to have job and opportunities, and that we should be answering the question, how are we loving our neighbors as we love ourselves? It's true. I'm in West Adams. I live in Mid-City. This is K-Town. But at the end of the day, we are CD10. We have to build the coalition for CD10. We have to move as a people that are united and that are together. We have to move beyond the divisions and look at each other and say, how are my neighbors doing? As a city council person, that's what I want to do. I've been doing it for over a decade. I've been doing it as a pastor. I've been doing it as a community organizer. I've been doing it with LA Voice. I did it as a redistricting commissioner, and I want to do it with you. As your city council person, that is my commitment to you. I will always listen to you. I will always make sure I have an ear that we may not always agree, but when we come to a decision, I will stand by my convictions and I will fight for you. We deserve better than the status quo. We deserve to have our voices heard, and you deserve to have your voices heard. Anderson4LA.com.
Yeah, I'm finally standing up. So, look, if you're satisfied with the status quo, probably the people up here are not your candidate. If you're satisfied and trust the people who are in city council right now that they will ferret out corruption, then the people that showed up here today are probably not the people you want. If you believe you're being heard in City Hall every day and your concerns are being taken care of, then the people up here are not the ones you want in City Hall. At the end of the day, you want someone that's going to make a change. You want something different. You don't want people who are backed by the status quo, who want to keep things the same way, who do not want a disturbance in the force. They want to keep things the way it's always been, to go along and get along, that won't point out when someone's doing something illegal. We'll keep quiet and let them do the things over and over again. I'm one of those people that will not only stand up, I don't need their money, I don't need their endorsements, I don't need any of that. I just need you to have faith in me that I will make sure that you get what you want out of CD10. www.reggie4la.com.